that now. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Very excited for the release of this Renewable Natural Gas RNG Handbook for Canadian municipalities. This piece of work has been in play for some time. And so this is a real treat to be able to present on this handbook. And we have a great panel today. Yes, this presentation file and presentation will be made available as well online afterwards. So thanks for that. Today, we have a great session planned for you. My name is Richard Laszlo, and I'm here representing Quest, Quality Urban Energy Systems of Tomorrow. I'm here to introduce the session as well as the handbook that is we're very happy to have released. I'll start with a very brief presentation, and then I'll hand it off to Tom McLenaghan with the Region of Peel to speak about their experience so far in their RNG journey. After that, we'll hear from Shelly McDonald from Enbridge Gas, speaking to their efforts to partner with municipalities and their newly launched RNG voluntary program. Kevin Larmer with the Canadian Gas Association will then give a bit of a national picture of how RNG fits within the gas utilities, partnering with municipalities to help achieve climate and circular economy objectives. And then last but not least, we'll hear from Jennifer Green with the Canadian Biogas Association, who's batting cleanup today and will fill in any gaps, things that we've missed, and focus on the CBA's work with municipalities around investors, biogas, and speak to some broader policy issues. And then we'll have some time for a Q&A and a moderated discussion. So we're hoping to go through these presentations very quickly and then leave some time at the end. So if you have any questions as we go, please feel free to use the Q&A and we'll address your questions as we go, or maybe at the end, depending on kind of how things go here. So this is a true collaborative effort between Quest, Canadian Gas Association, Canadian Biogas Association to make available this resource. The original version, which was had a jurisdictional focus on the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, was funded by the Atmospheric Fund. They generously supported us and allowed and gave permission for us to take that content and make it available for a national audience. So thank you to TAF. In terms of the handbook, really what we're trying to do with the handbook is get more resources out there, get information to help municipalities understand renewable natural gas, understand what the journey looks like. It's a big project, and so we decided to scope things to really look at municipalities that already had some kind of anaerobic digester, maybe a wastewater treatment plant, source separated organics facility, landfill, that could include an upgrader to take the biogas and upgrade it to renewable natural gas. So in terms of RNG, renewable natural gas is really, I'm sure most of you know already, but it is about taking the biogas and upgrading it, cleaning it of any impurities, and coming up with something that's biomethane. It's methane that's sourced from a bio resource. And there's a few different pathways that allow for the production of renewable natural gas. I mentioned a few of those already. Landfill or an anaerobic digester are common ones. In terms of why this is something that we're talking about, of course, the big one is the greenhouse gas reduction potential that RNG has. You're taking what was a waste stream, organic material, and that's being converted into a usable product, which is bio. Through that process, you are taking methane or biogas, which is has a high global warming potential, and instead you're using that as methane that can be used to displace conventional natural gas that's like fossil fuel. So there's tremendous benefits from a greenhouse gas reduction potential. There's also improved air quality benefits and economic benefits as well to a municipality, where again, you're taking what was a waste and you're turning that into a value stream, a value added product. In terms of what to do with the RNG when you're thinking about a project to produce that RNG, there's really a few different options. One is that the municipality would self-consume the renewable natural gas that was produced. So that could be used to heat city-owned buildings. You can use that to fuel garbage refuse trucks, for example, like Hamilton. Alternatively, you can sell that RNG and you would execute a sales agreement or an offtake agreement with a third party that would purchase that RNG, and in exchange, provide you with revenue that you could potentially use to reduce GHGs another way in your municipality. And then there's a hybrid option if you want to do kind of some self-consumption versus some external sales. And in terms of kind of getting some basic costing, these are illustrative figures only. But in terms of what RNG typically looks at, really you're looking at kind of a rough cost somewhere in the area of kind of anywhere from like $15 to $25 per gigajoule. And so what we've done in the handbook is provide an overview of these different cost categories. Again, so for the municipalities out there that are starting on your RNG journey, you have an idea of what these different buckets that you need to think about look like. And $22, $20 per gigajoule is sounds a lot, and it certainly is when you're comparing it against the commodity price of natural gas, fossil natural gas. On this chart, what I've shown here is very basic, shown in dollars per kilowatt hour. The blue line is your RNG fixed price at $20 per. And then I've shown here what conventional natural gas looks like in the red, and what the impact of an increase in carbon price does to the relative spread between RNG and natural gas. So you can see they're narrowing, but even at that $20 per gigajoule level, 7 cents per kilowatt hour is not a bad price for a renewable fuel, and especially one that's firm. So it's not intermittent. This is something because it would be blended with the natural gas stream. This renewable natural gas can reduce GHGs and provides a firm energy source that can reduce GHGs. One of the things you'll see in the handbook is a detailed look at all the different stakeholders that you'd have to kind of engage with as a municipality as part of this. This isn't something that you can do alone. This is a very these projects can be complex. Each one is unique. Depends on site condition. Want to discuss the project details with a number of partners and vendors as you go through. One of the key things, and this would apply to any type of project in a municipality, I think any big project, capital project, is the importance of champions, the importance of crossing over to. So if your waste department is looking at RNG as a potential solution, make sure you speak to the sustainability department. Make sure you're speaking to transportation departments and others to take a broader view of what RNG can mean for your municipality. In terms of the regulatory environment, nationally, this is quickly moving, and even as we were finalizing doing the copy edit of the handbook, there were changes to the clean fuel standard, for example. Enbridge had come out with its voluntary program, so this is rapidly evolving, and I'm expecting that in a year or 2 years' time we might have to update the handbook. But there are lots of good content explaining the different policies across Canada. And The very detailed portion of the handbook is this risk mitigation table. And this is something that we put a lot of work into, engaged with a variety of subject matter experts around the different risks and how they can be mitigated. And this is all made available to you in a framework in the handbook that we hope is helpful. What we did was, there's no kind of cookie cutter approach to developing an RNG project. But what we did was identify a number of steps that or decisions that need to be taken, and they're iterative, right? They don't have to happen in this order, but at some point in the project development process, you're gonna have to cover off each of these decisions, and we've itemized those in the handbook. There's some kind of special kind of call out boxes looking at lessons learned, and some other tools and resources. We also provided some recommendations to the government as part of this process, and we're happy to see the policy picture continue to evolve. And last item I'll leave you with today before I invite Tom to dive into his presentation is, if you're interested in staying up to date and being part of a forum that exchanges information on renewable natural gas, you can join RNG Inet or Network. It's free. We meet quarterly, and this is a collaboration between the Canadian Gas Association and the Canadian Biogas Association, both organizations showing real leadership and leading the industry on renewable natural gas. So thank you very much for your time. I will now pass it on to Tom. Tom, I'm going to stop sharing now, if I can get this going here, and then I'll ask you to present. Tom, are you able to present?
Yeah, I think so. There you go.
Perfect.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all had wherever you are, had a great weekend and long weekend for, I think, for summer.
Sorry, Tom, it doesn't seem like, are you sharing your screen?
I am sharing. I did hit the share button. Yeah, you should be, you're not seeing on your end?
Oh, hold on a second. No, it might be. It's because I'm still full screen on mine. Okay.
Right, we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, right. So again, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend, long weekend for, I think, for some of us anyways. Today, I'm going to talk about our journey in renewable natural gas, specifically as it relates to our anaerobic digestion facility project. So there's a lot I could talk about, but I'm really going to I've got 7 minutes, just kind of focus and drill down on the RNG aspect of this. So just as a very quick background, Region Appeal, made up of the City of Brampton, Town of Caledon, City of Mississauga. We've got a mix of both urban and, of course, rural households. The region's waste management division provides services to residents living both in curbside, ground-related housing, as well as multi-residential buildings, as well as some of our agencies, boards, commissions, apartments, and to some of the some commercial establishments, business establishments within our business improvement areas. All other waste is managed by the private. Oh, sorry, it looks like I lost my screen.
Okay, sorry about that, Tom. Try again now.
All right. Okay, everything okay? Sorry about that. I'm not sure
Perfect.
What happened there.
Thanks, Tom.
So as I mentioned, so we do collect, currently we do collect organics from our curbside households, but not our not apartments buildings at this time. So in 2015, Regional Council adopted a very aggressive diversion target of 75% diversion by 2034. At that time, they also approved a development plan to develop a anaerobic digestion facility where curbside or direct delivery could be achieved. In 2017, At the same time as our long-term waste management strategy, which is called the Circular Economy Region Appeal. As part of that, the Regional Council also approved development of an anaerobic digestion facility, specifically the strategic terms for how that would be carried out. So the primary driver for us undertaking this project was to satisfy our long-term diversion targets, not necessarily just to produce RNG in and of itself. But the main issue was that our existing composting capacity is operating already. We're currently processing a little bit less than half of all the organics we collect. We switched to biweekly collection in 2016, biweekly collection of garbage. We doubled the amount of organics we collected overnight. So knowing long-term also as well that we wanted to make program changes to allow the addition of diapers and pet waste to the organic stream, we needed to pursue a technology that could do that. So of course, AD was chosen for a number of reasons. That was one of them, to be able to remove contaminants and be able to better remove contaminants from organics. To be able to be also AD has the advantage of being able to be sited within an urban area, a much smaller footprint, and of course generates less odorous process air. So that was kind of the primary driver for doing this. Of course, you know, being able to produce RNG is certainly a great secondary benefit to anaerobic digestion. So the facility will process 90,000 tons per year of organics. We currently collect about somewhere in the range of 70,000 tons per year now. In terms of responsibilities, the project company to design, build, and operate the facility will be responsible for processing of organics, to produce the biogas and manage and upgrade that to RNG, and manage, of course, all the outputs. The region appeal will retain ownership of the RNG and will determine how it's used for beneficial use. So with respect to the upgrading of RNG, I mean, we had a couple of options available. We had the option through Enbridge Gas Inc., the natural gas distribution utility in Ontario, to have them do the upgrading, or to do the upgrading as part of the design, build, operate, maintain contract. However, since the facility and it's being developed at the same time, the process facility as would be the upgrading equipment, we decided that it'd be best if that was put on to the project company for a number of reasons. I mean, there are variations in flow from biogas from an AD facility based on the time of year, the amount of feedstock that's received. We also do recognize that being developed together, it's better to integrate the operations in both respect to design, construction, and commissioning. And it provides accountability to the operator of the AD facility for meeting both the recovery of biomethane from the biogas, as well as meeting the quality requirements of the utility. It also simplifies the terms of the contract as well too, if one entity is kind of doing both. So that's the way we ended up going. In terms of our partner in this, Enbridge Gas, they will be responsible for designing and building and operating and maintaining an injection facility on the site, on the same site as the AD facility, and to operate that for the same term as the AD facility, and to inject the natural gas or the renewable natural gas into their distribution system. So to that end, the region will be entering into a separate contract with Enbridge to do that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So why did we choose RNG in terms of the biogas utilization options? We had considered a number of other options, including cogeneration, industrial heat, and other things. But given that there's no sort of direct customers that could take the biogas, and also as well in Ontario, there are no sort of fit programs for large-scale renewable energy electricity programs. RNG was chosen as the way to move forward. In terms of the use of RNG, I mean, of course, it gives us a number of options. We can use it for building our process heat in regional facilities. So we noted that at full capacity, the RNG produced from this facility could satisfy approximately 1/3 of our current natural gas needs. Now, with respect to that, that has a benefit not only of offsetting certain costs for using purchased natural gas, but it actually goes a long ways to helping us meet our greenhouse gas reduction targets as part of our climate change objectives. Alternatively, of course, we could also opt to sell the RNG, all or a portion of the RNG, to offset some of our operating costs. So a couple of key considerations that I would share particularly for municipalities considering undertaking a project similar to ours. And again, here talking about an integrated AD facility with a biogas upgrading component to RNG. So first I mentioned is siting. With respect to our project, actually, we did have to change sites midway through the procurement process, which something you don't want to have to do, but we were successful in doing that. So very important to consider compatibility surrounding land uses, and sort of stress that it's helpful to actually go out into the community and really look at who your neighbors are going to be. Even if they are industrial, I mean, there are certain operations we've learned are certain things that may not be compatible with a waste facility in the jurisdiction. Another very important thing to consider, obviously, is utility capacity. From what we learned is the most important for an AD facility, particularly one which uses a lot of water in the process, is sanitary sewer. You also want to make sure you have adequate electrical capacity, and of course, natural gas, both in terms of the injection and supply as well for times when you may need to pull from the natural gas system. Another thing that, particularly in Peel or anywhere else where you have a large airport, commercial airport, is to be aware of setting constraints such as bird hazard zones. Another important consideration is alignment of the equipment, service life of equipment, and the contracts. So what we've done is our DBOM contract is for a period of 15 years, optional extension of 20 years. So then our contract with Enbridge for the biogas, for the RNG injection, it was also going to be 20 years. So if you have an existing facility, you might want to look at in terms of both the RNG injection facility, its life, and how it aligns to the life and any refurbishment or upgrading of the facility producing biogas, to look at alignment of service life, and as well as any contracts we might have to enter into. Of course, we've talked about this a few times already, is the use of the RNG. So it's not a decision we have to make right away right now. As we've noted, there's been a lot of policy changes with respect to climate change and renewable fuels and so on. But important to do that business case to look at how to best use the RNG, whether you want to use it to help meet your climate change goals or to offset operating costs. Important thing to do as well that we've learned, it's great to engage, very helpful to engage the natural gas utility early in the process. We actually did this throughout the procurement process as well, where we engaged them with the proponents through the RFP process, and had sort of one-on-one meetings to understand their requirements and to work those into the agreements accordingly. So with the agreements as well too, you want to make sure you have alignment both for terms of production of the RNG and moving it into the pipeline to its destination. So one of the challenges, the biggest challenges we had when we went through this was kind of trying to understand sort of what was required from producing the RNG to produce it, to get it into the pipeline, and to transport it to its end destination, whether it be a regional facility or whether it be sold as offsite to some market. So as we were doing this was a little bit of a diagram, difficult for you to see, but that we kind of sketched out to try and outline all the different parties and all the relationships. So after a lot of discussions with both internally and with our energy folks, as well as with Enbridge, we're fortunate enough to kind of be able to nail it down to just a couple of agreements. So one, of course, being between Peel and then, of course, the what we call project company who will design, build, and operate the AD facility. We're going to have an agreement with Enbridge for the RNG injection station and for moving the gas offsite. And then, of course, the region already has through a broker an agreement to purchase natural gas, and this is something that, in terms of moving the RNG, we could sort of tack on or build into a future agreement, gas purchase agreement as well. As I previously mentioned, You do want to make sure that there's proper alignment between these various agreements you might have, as well as appropriate assignment of responsibility and of risk. As I mentioned too, as well, engaging all parties, so the municipality, your contractor, and your utility is absolutely critical. So in our case, I mean, having those meetings, those joint meetings through the RFP process, with the various proponents, as well as Enbridge, was actually very, very helpful in this regard. Okay, that concludes my presentation. I apologize for going a little bit over time, but happy to take, I guess, questions. Richard, I'm assuming we'll do that at the end of the webinar.
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll do that at the end. Thank you very much, Tom. Great presentation, and clearly lots of detailed understanding required, and lots of lessons learned. So thanks for sharing. Shelly, can I ask you, please, your screen sharing, and then you can close that PowerPoint, and then Shelly, if you could try sharing your screen. Perfect. Looks like we're
okay. So you're seeing my screen?
Yeah, if you could, I don't know if you need to go full screen or.
There we go. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to talk a bit today, maybe more a little bit here on the demand side of the RNG, and then I'll talk a little bit about how Enbridge plays in with the municipalities. But I'm going to spend some time talking about the Optup program that Enbridge recently introduced. So it is a voluntary RNG program. This program is actually geared towards residential and small commercial customers who purchase their gas through Enbridge. The cost of this program is $2 a month, and so depending on participation, the amount of contributions collected will then be used to purchase renewable natural gas as part of our gas supply, and that will be blended into the utilities natural gas supply and delivered to homeowners. A lot of questions come up about the federal carbon charge credit, and through this program is a pilot program, and we have been given, I believe it's 3 years to do the pilot and determine, you know, what's working, what potential changes might we want to make, and we'll be going back to the OEB with a proposal on looking for a permanent program, as well as enhancements potentially to this program. Part of what we will be doing as part of the pilot and as a permanent program will be to do annual reporting. So this will be about, you know, indicating how many people are participating, what impacts this is having on greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and that will happen. Typically, we expect we'll do that through our website. This program launched in early April, so we haven't done any of that type of reporting yet. But if you're interested in more about the program, you can certainly go to the enbridgegas.com and look up either the Renewable Natural Gas or Optup, and it will take you to the program.
Shelly,
and allow, yep.
Shelly, if you don't mind, it doesn't look like your screen is full screen. If you don't mind just trying to.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, because yeah, it looks full screen from my perspective. Not.
You might be sharing. I'm not sure which screen you're sharing. If you go to the share screen, maybe you're sharing like if you have 2 windows open.
How is that? Did that change it?
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So some of the goals that we're looking for in this program, in the initial first pilot year, we're looking to enroll 16,000 customers and getting to 28,000 before the end of the pilot. And just to give you some of the information that we share with customers, based on 16,000 customers, that would be equivalent to almost planting 19,000 trees or driving 4.5 million kilometers less. So that's some of the information that we share is when we're communicating what this program is, and again on our website. And we really are, through this pilot, looking to create a scalable program that can cater to different customers. And so that may be, you know, by changing the dollar amount, or it may be by trying to get enhancements to the number of customers who are eligible. The pilot will sort of walk us through what that might look like, and any feedback we collect along the way will be, well, we'll go out looking for it. But again, anytime somebody has something that comes to mind, we're certainly open to hearing that. But one of the other things that's really important to us here is really raising the awareness of RNG and its impacts on the greenhouse gas emissions reductions. And that's not just with our customers, but just reaching out and socializing RNG with all stakeholders, whether that's at sessions like this with the municipality, or with other levels of government, or with the OEB, but really trying to help people understand that RNG does have impacts on climate change and sustainability goals. It can help reduce the need for landfills. As it's blended into the traditional natural gas systems, it can heat homes, and it can take advantage of the existing natural gas infrastructure and really help reduce emissions. So that's a part of coming at this from the customer side, and giving opportunities for the customers to participate in this and help grow this market. So from the municipality's impact, if the municipality on the gas supply, you are able to enroll in the Optup program if you are one of the small commercial accounts that is purchasing your gas through Enbridge. We're just kicking off a social media campaign around the Optup and the voluntary RNG and what it is. So again, this is geared for the most part to residential homes and small commercial, but any sharing of that type of social media, again, gets the message out there that RNG is important and plays an important role here. And I mentioned too before the idea of feedback, to make sure this pilot program does turn into a permanent program that has even more reach to customers to get the market developed for RNG. And there's also the ability for anybody who is a direct purchase customer currently to buy RNG directly from their gas supply broker or marketer, whomever that would be, and Enbridge would transport that and mix or blend that gas into the traditional gas supply. And then, of course, there's the big one that was already talked about, was the real production, the municipal's production themselves, and then self-consuming or selling that production. And we have our RNG team who would help and has technical expertise and can work with municipality on options, whether that is creating the injection station that brings the gas onto the Enbridge system, or working with you on the actual upgrading system as well. And so we have that team, and if any point you wanted to reach out to that team, it's the rng@enbridge.com. An email to that number would get you in touch with that team. And I just wanted to highlight one success story that is on our website, and you can find some of the other success stories that talk about RNG and how municipalities have taken advantage of that, whether it's through their transit or their waste. But I grabbed off the one on the Hamilton Street Railroad where they are purchasing RNG from the Storm Fisher facility outside of London and displacing 35,000 liters of diesel in every year. And so again, this was a huge success story, partnering with both our CNG team and our RNG team and the municipality to come with a RNG solution that has, you know, greenhouse gas emissions reductions. There's economic benefits here for the city as well. And again, if those are the types of opportunities that you're looking to or interested in, reaching out to the RNG@enbridge.com and they can certainly help you. So that was everything I was going to cover then. So I'll turn it back to you, Richard.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shelly. That's great. Kevin, if I could ask you to please try and share your screen, and we can continue on with this. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Kevin. You are up. You just need to hit the full screen, I think, the presentation.
It's hidden behind here. Just one second. There we go. You see it fine, Richard?
Yes, I can see you just right now. Perfect.
Excellent. And here is my face as well. So, first, quickly, thank you to everyone who was involved with putting this handbook together. I know there was a tremendous amount of work that Mr. Laszlo and his team put into this. So thank you to Quest. Thank you to Jennifer Green at the Canadian Biogas Association. And thank you as well to TAF for helping make this come together. So we greatly appreciate all the work that was put into that. So I'm here with the Canadian Gas Association. My name is Kevin Larmer. I'm the Director of Innovation and Markets. I look at renewable gases across Canada and work with many of our utilities in trying to bring more gases into our systems. So today I'll talk a little bit about the partnerships and the collaboration. Those of you who have heard me talk before know me. I talk a lot about collaboration, as I believe this is one of the most important things in bringing large, complex projects like this together. So who are we? We're the Canadian Gas Association. We represent the natural gas distribution industry in Canada, the natural gas utilities, transmission companies, and manufacturers of natural gas equipment. We deliver 35% of the energy needs of Canadians to 7.25 million customers. That number grows annually by up to about 100,000 customers as our networks begin to expand and reach out to areas where natural gas is not in place at this point in time. So why is natural gas important to you? Why is this important to municipalities? Well, by blending RNG into the natural gas delivery system, meaningful emission reductions can be made using one of the most affordable renewable fuel options. I think this has been mentioned a couple of times. Richard off the start talked about the price of RNG, and often it's talked about as being expensive, but that's when you're comparing it to fossil natural gas, being one of the lowest and most affordable energy options in Canada. But when you compare this to other renewable energies, I have a slide a little later on that we'll look at, but it shows that it really is on par with many other energies. So our industry is committed to working with communities across the country to maximize the environmental and economic development opportunities that come with RNG development. And that's why, as Canada's Natural Gas Delivery Association, we have made an aspirational target of 5% RNG blended into the natural gas systems by 2025 and 10% by 2030. This can also result in about 14 megatons of GHG emission reductions per year by the year of 2030. So this is something that all utilities across Canada are working on, and it means forming those partnerships and the collaboration with municipalities to bring on things like landfills, things like site-sourced organics and wastewater treatment plants. So we see a number of projects across Canada already in development. There's over 12 projects up and running. I have an example of 3 up on the screen here. I won't go into too much detail on these, as we just heard 2 great presentations out of the Ontario area. But one thing I would like to point out is we see 3 specific provinces that come up with the projects that are in place. And the reason we see these 3 provinces over and over right now is due to policy. If I look at British Columbia, they have a policy that mandates, I believe it is, just grabbing my note here on it. They're looking at 5% of, oh, sorry, bear with me for a second here. They're looking for a blend rate of 15% RNG in its natural gas system by 2030. And Quebec also has policy for 10% by 2030. We also see Ontario, as Shelly just pointed out, with an opt-in program, which is a voluntary program. This is also how it started in British Columbia with FortisBC. So the other provinces are also looking at renewable natural gas projects, and there's a couple reasons for this. One, these other provinces are able to source RNG from outside of their jurisdictions. So they have RFPs that have been put out. I can think of Pacific Northern Gas, who put the last one out, who are looking for RNG from across Canada. As well, there's regulatory challenges that our natural gas delivery utilities all face, in that in order to bring on that RNG and put it into our systems, they need regulatory approval to do so. So as the Canadian Gas Association, this is something that we're working closely on with our federal, provincial, and our utility partners across Canada to try and bring more projects of this to fruition. We talked earlier about the RNG cost advantage. Well, as you can see on the graph, RNG is very competitive with other renewable sources of energy. But RNG using the existing natural gas infrastructure means that we can have energy being produced without the intermittency that we see in wind and solar, though they're very important energy options and play their role. But with the natural gas infrastructure in place, with many of the gas collection infrastructures in place in landfills, that this really becomes a very affordable option for municipalities to look at in order to help meet some of the GHG emission reduction targets that they've put out. Richard also discussed RNG Inet. So we as the Gas Association are looking for ways to help build awareness, to help bring people together to discuss RNG across Canada. And that's why RNG Inet was formed. We have almost 100 stakeholders who come onto our quarterly meetings, and we've really found that this is a great way for people to network and meet other people, and to also hear stories about how projects have come together. I think, as others have pointed out on this, the importance of partnerships and collaborations through these processes is of the utmost importance. And that's partly why the RNG Handbook is going to be a valuable tool for municipalities to use as they start to look at these projects. So at any time, I can be reached out to via our website. Richard has our email, and she will all attach to the meeting invites that we're all on here today. At any time, I'm happy to take emails and phone calls if anyone wants to discuss projects or thoughts or ideas, or even just the RNG Handbook itself, which Richard's already looked at. So with that, Richard, I will pass it back to you, and we'll hear from Ms. Green next.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Please just stop your screen share. That was great. Jennifer, please, you are up and ready to go here.
Super, thanks so much, Richard. We'll get started. Let me know if you can see my screen fully.
Just perfect.
Awesome. So as Richard mentioned, I'm batting cleanup today for this conversation, and I'm very aware of our time. I'm going to go very quickly through a number of these slides because we've touched on a few points already from the prior speakers. But there are some key messages that I would like to touch on and to wrap up as we move into our Q&A session. As with other organizations, the Canadian Biogas Association works on behalf of its members. Ours include entities like municipalities, farmers, and utilities, all with an interest in helping to grow the biogas and renewable natural gas sector in Canada. I would like to point out, as many have already, that RNG is very much top of mind. We are seeing great interest in this space because it checks a lot of boxes. There are so many multifaceted kind of areas that biogas and renewable natural gas check in each of the climate, energy, economic, and waste management solutions. And that's why it's making it a very attractive option today for municipalities specifically. Municipalities also have a lot of available resources at their fingertips. And whether you're a more urban municipality where you're dealing with many of the gas collection opportunities from landfills, wastewater treatment processing, or with dedicated green bin materials that are now becoming more prevalent, or with whether you're in the agricultural area and utilizing opportunities within the agricultural sector. There is a lot of low-hanging fruit to be taken care of. I would like to point out as well that this is not a new technology. We're dealing with over 279 projects within the biogas and renewable natural gas space in Canada as of 2020. And this is really a widely available technology that has really seen an opportunity to be successfully planned, constructed, and operated over the course of the last decade. Interesting to note that it is also very much an opportunity that has been taken up in all of the provinces across the country. So not only are we seeing diversification in the types of projects, but we're also seeing interest growing, as was mentioned, in 3 key regions, in addition to all of the provinces across Canada. I highlight these particular sources or these particular projects in the red circles because they're the ones that really are in your domain as a municipality. With over 225 projects of the 279, we're seeing a lot of projects now have the opportunity either with municipal partnership or with dedicated investment and procurement within the municipal domain to be able to utilize these kinds of technology, bases of anaerobic digestion, moving all the way into an upgraded renewable natural gas. And it's also important to note that those 279 projects are only really scraping the surface. We know that based on the opportunity, there are more than enough available resources out there to produce renewable natural gas. We have about 8 times more potential to be able to transform some of those lower hanging fruit into the opportunity for RNG going into the future. This slide is really just to share with you that that opportunity is across the board, very much populated, the growth potential signified here in this heat map, really an indication, as you can see, where there's great density of population, but other resources as well, as was mentioned before, in terms of those key areas where anaerobic digestion, biogas, and RNG are taking hold. Kevin mentioned already some of the policy drivers, but the one thing that I want to really clue in here is that this is really an opportunity where the federal, provincial, and municipal governments have a role to play. There are a lot of areas, many of which are probably not listed on this slide and could go to in great detail, where municipalities are really driving this ship as well. And so within that framework, the opportunities within the mandates that have been set provincially and federal targets set on climate and carbon, really we're sitting in a great opportunity to be able to continue to see great growth going forward. I'll end so that we have a good 10 minutes for conversation and questions, but just to recognize that the Canadian Biogas Association has a lot of resources available for municipalities, including the RNG Handbook, as Kevin mentioned. If you're interested, there's a copy available. We recently launched our biogas market report, and a couple of years back, the Anaerobic Digestion Guideline for Canada. There's a ton of resources for municipalities. We are here to support that growth. So very much looking for you to reach out if you have any questions. Over to you, Richard.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jen. As always, great presentation. Thanks for all the panelists. If you don't mind, feel free to share your cameras, and then we can have a bit of Q&A here. So we have a number of questions that are up and online here. So We'll do our best to share the presentations in the webinar. I might have to do a bit of editing to remove the technical challenges, but we'll try and get this available. So a question by Juan. So thanks for the question, Juan. So in terms of what is the percent of our total natural gas consumption that can be replaced with RNG? So I know this is it's a bit of a kind of, not a touchy subject, but like we're not sure. I know that there have been studies done, some potential studies. Jennifer, maybe if you want to kind of take on, do you want to kind of give a range or, you know, cite some figures around, you know, what's the size of the prize here in terms of RNG?
Sure. I would echo what Kevin had mentioned in his delivery, and that is to say that we know that the natural gas supply currently in Canada is massive. And by no means are we suggesting that by tomorrow we're actually flipping the pipe and making it completely green. There is an industry aspirational target to see RNG blended into the supply of about 5% by 2025 and 10% by 2030. Those, as I mentioned, are aspirational targets, but give you kind of a range or a view of where the industry is trying to shoot for in terms of achieving some of that displacement.
Perfect, thanks. Any of the other panelists have anything to add?
Well, I would echo what Jennifer said as well, Richard, that the feedstock in Canada is it is a limited source, but it is available province to province to province. Municipalities, I really see playing a large role in bringing that feedstock and turning the biogas into, well, either use of biogas for electrical use or turning that into RNG. So, you know, the potential, I think, for municipalities is there through their waste streams, and taking that waste stream and converting it to usable energy and looking at revenue sources of that waste.
Fantastic. Okay, so this one I think is probably a question for Shelly. What is the pipeline quality Enbridge and others are looking for injection? So is this like a 9s, 4 9s? How kind of pure does this biomethane have to be injected?
I don't have the exact numbers with me right now, but that's certainly something I could get the injection specs that are currently used for RNG injection stations. That would be what we would have in any contract for anybody who's going to inject RNG into the station. So I could certainly find out what those specs are and provide them to you. I thought
Perfect.
that the handbook actually may have had reference to the specs, so it may also be there already.
Sure. Yeah. No. Thanks for that. Okay. We'll follow up on that, Ed. Thanks for the question. Okay. Here's another one this one's for the CGA, and it's looking at kind of innovative carbon capture and utilization. So I don't know, Kevin, maybe you can point people to maybe NGIF or some other kind of innovative home for people who are interested.
No, absolutely. So part of the CGA, we have something called the Natural Gas Innovation Fund, and they are looking at startup companies across Canada, North America, and carbon capture utilization. And sequestration is certainly something that they are looking at. So feel free to reach out to myself on that, or NGIF at ngif.ca. You can find them right on their website. But we're always happy to have these discussions and talk with other like-minded folks who are looking at these new innovative ways to help reduce GHGs in Canada.
Perfect. Thank you. We have another question from Juan regarding the 3 case studies, and I guess you used a 5 ton per household GHG reduction potential, and they were asking for more about the methodology that produces this value. But I think that's more just kind of looking at an average consumption, right, of natural gas for like kind of a typical home. So Juan, if you want to talk about that in detail offline, send me an email and I'm happy to kind of share some resources on that. I think kind of 5 tons is about right. Of course, it depends, you know, if you have electric heating, I mean, it's different if, you know, like, but I think 5 tons is roughly kind of, and I've seen that in a lot of municipal energy plans, a number around there as kind of the number. So that's fine, I think. So Jennifer, another question here around existing operational biogas sources convert to RNG? Are they all wastewater treatment facilities? I don't know, Jen. I mean, I don't know. I think it's not like there's a lot more biogas sources than there are RNG facilities. And I think you're pointing to for RNG upgrading, given the amount of kind of biogas sources there, right?
Yeah, I would respond to Ed by saying that for sure the industry's track record has been looking mostly at many of the biogas projects that either have produced renewable electricity or heat. In addition to renewable natural gas, we know that the number of RNG projects today installed and operational in Canada doesn't exceed a dozen. So we're around 12 projects with many more in development. And of those dozen, we know that there is a variety. So we're not all wastewater treatment facilities. We have some agricultural facilities, as well as landfill gas transformed into RNG. So there's a variety there and many more projects coming down the pipeline.
Perfect, thank you. Ontario and firm commitments for 2030. I don't think there is any firm commitment for 2030. Is there in Ontario, Jen?
At this stage, what we have is the Optup program that Shelly had mentioned, and this is really a stepping stone. I know that many other provinces, including British Columbia, have used a voluntary program to really introduce the RNG supply for customers. So currently today in Ontario, there is no firm commitment by 2030. But this, as we see rapid interest and uptake in renewable gaseous fuels, we could obviously see this change over time as well.
Thank you. And then there's a question around, it says valorizing. I think we're talking about like monetizing digestate. So when we do the anaerobic digestion, we get the biogas, and then there's kind of a solid kind of product left, the digestate. Do you want to speak, Jen? This one I think is for you as well, around digestate. Is there a market there?
Yeah, I'll do double duty on this one because there's another question about where does the digestate actually go from municipalities. And so I would say that a number of municipalities actually take that end product, a valuable nutrient enhancement that can be used on agricultural land as a soil amendment. Many of the digested products either find their way to a composting facility first and then get land applied, or go to some form of direct land application with specific restrictions in place. In terms of the valorization, this is a slow to come market. It is not where you're going to be penciling out your project by any means in terms of a revenue line item. So this is something that is a work in progress. It definitely provides an NPK value that is of value to the agricultural community, but that is not one that has really incented a contractual exchange, if you will, in terms of the digestate going to the land.
Okay, perfect. Anyone have anything else to add, panelists there? Around international markets for RNG. And whether or not we can sell RNG to the U.S. And yes, Don, thank you for your question. It looks like there's quite a few buyers for RNG out there looking for supply, including in the U.S. through the renewable through the RIN market. So that's definitely an option if you're looking to sell. Now they tend to be there's a premium associated with that. So there's like increased revenue, but you have to look at the length of the agreement. So it's kind of, tend to be shorter term. So there's potentially some more risk in there. And that's one of the things that the handbook gets into. Again, we really recommend, to speak to, a variety of kind of expertise around this to make sure that you're getting, the maximum value you can for the product. Okay, there's another question here from Amin. Thank you. Nice to see you again, Amin, as well, around GHG reduction potential. And is there an emission intensity comparison between RNG and fossil natural gas? And I think, Amin, I'll take this one to say that it really depends on what the source of that RNG is. Right now, Environment Climate Change Canada is going through a process to look at those intensity metrics, and they're developing. It's kind of an evolving space here, depending on the type of facility and the feedstock, and there would be an intensity assigned to different types of RNG produced. Jen, Kevin, anyone else, anything to add there? No? Okay, perfect. Okay, Ed, another question. RNG or L for municipal fleet transportation fuel. I'm not sure what, anyone want to take this one? LRNG? Jen, are you on?
Yeah, I would say that we often hear of municipalities looking at their transit fleets or their waste fleets, as was referenced, as a viable outlet to use the RNG as a fuel. We're seeing municipalities evaluate their options to convert their diesel fleets to a compressed natural gas, and then from a CNG unit, then be able to blend in RNG as a fuel. This is happening. The City of Surrey facility that was mentioned in Kevin's presentation is doing just that. And it provides a beautiful circular story when we see the fuel being the means by which those trucks are going back to pick up the refuse from the curb. I'm not familiar with your reference to LRNG, so I'll defer that, but just to say that yes, RNG for transportation is being used today.
Perfect.
I maybe just I'd add to that a bit too, Jennifer, that it was good to hear Tom in his presentation talk about the decision that needs to be made on using the RNG for their own uses, either through building heat, air conditioning, or fleet use, or looking at the GHG targets that they can use that towards too. So these are really good issues and challenges to be looking at as municipalities, because it's a win-win situation on both sides. So using the RNG in municipal fleets, I've seen upwards of $500,000 being saved in diesel and heating costs by using it this way. So we did talk about the different uses, and it's not always, from what I'm seeing, it's not always one singular use as well. It can do a number of different things. And I think that's part of the value of renewable natural gas and the natural gas system.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, and I know we're over time here, but there's some good questions, so we'll continue. Panelists, if you're good to continue for a few more minutes, we're almost through them here. And I noticed we still have quite a few attendees listening in. So there's a question here, are there established mechanisms in Canada that would be consumed in one jurisdiction and accounted for in another? And yeah, I think the short answer is yes. So the idea is with RNG, if we're selling RNG, the reality is that we're selling the environmental attributes associated with that RNG. So if, for example, you're a jurisdiction, you're a municipality, and you really want to sell your RNG to Fortis BC, for example, or Énergir, then what would happen was, and let's say you were located in Ontario, let's say, just for the sake of argument here, and if you wanted to do that, as long as there was a pipeline connection between the point of production and Fortis BC or Énergir's network, the idea would be that you could kind of wheel the RNG through that set of pipelines. The RNG that you produce would still be injected into Enbridge's natural gas distribution system and would be consumed by Enbridge customers. So the idea is there's a kind of they're paying a premium for the environmental attributes. They're not actually going to be consuming those molecules of natural gas that you produce. And it's the same way with renewable electricity. you credit or something from a bullfrog, for example, you're not using the electrons from a wind turbine that they've they've commissioned, right? So if you have some more questions, feel free to email me. We can get into it. Okay, pipeline access is an issue. This is Mark Babcock. So pipeline access is an issue for many RNG projects. Are any of the pipeline interconnects designed to accept RNG trucked into the interconnect point? This would be similar to an interconnect for a county landfill. So trucked in, I haven't heard of anything like that. Shelly, do you know, is it possible to inject kind of trucked in supply?
I have not heard anything like that. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I think what's important is if the gas quality is there and can be injected into the system, I think Enbridge or other utilities would look at other avenues of making that happen. So if there's something very specific that Mark's interested in, I'd encourage him to reach out to our rng@enbridge.com, because they certainly have a lot more expertise than I would on that. But I think gas quality is the real key. We'll figure out a way to get it in.
Perfect, thank you. And I'd say on that one, I know that, if you are a gas producer, that relationship that you have with the natural gas utility, that partnership is really, really important. And you need to kind of look, you have, as a gas producer, you have certain responsibilities. But I see here that someone has responded, truck transport of gas with virtual pipelines do exist. So Mark, thank you for teaching us. So apparently there's a bunch of info coming in on that. Thanks, everybody. Okay, next question is, I think, more of a kind of comment here, but it's basically saying, all right, look, like you showed in the price of RNG relative to natural gas, even at 2030, RNG is still a premium. The amount of RNG injected is less than 5%. There's other kind of issues. How convince customers to go with RNG, and is there any plan to curb the emissions themselves? And I think I'll take this one as well. So look, there's no magic kind of solution to this climate change problem. It's going to take everything we have, and even then, like it's uncertain, right? These targets are extremely ambitious. They're important. So the fact that they're ambitious, that doesn't take here. However, we're going to have to look at everything that we have. RNG is taking a waste stream, organic waste, and turning it into a GHG reduction opportunity. So it only makes sense to pursue it as an option as long as we're going to be producing organic waste. I'll move on here. What are the majority of municipal RNG projects doing with the digestate? So I think we talked about that. There's some options there, and there's kind of a market for digestate. Thank you very much, Phil. Appreciate that. The metrics that make for a good potential RNG project. So maybe I'll take this one as well. I think the more RNG you can produce, the better in terms of kind of the economics of the project. And I think kind of having a good stable supply. Tom went through a number of kind of siting issues, and Tom, I don't know if you wanted to kind of add anything else, like what would make a good potential RNG project?
A good potential RNG project. I mean, I think if I looked at the economies of scale. I mean, I think certainly a larger project is better. So if you're a smaller municipality, I mean, I think the cost per ton, I mean, in waste, of course, we always think of in terms of cost per ton would be quite high. I saw somewhere a comment about sort of clustering facilities. I think for the smaller municipalities in Ontario, it certainly makes sense to have to have some sort of a collaboration where, you know, maybe a large municipality has a little bit of excess capacity that could take that and could partner with a smaller municipality and take their organics, right? So, I mean, in Peel, our composting system, I mean, for a time we did take some material from adjacent municipalities for a period of time. So that would be sort of the strategy, I guess, I would suggest going forward in terms of what sort of makes a successful project. I mean, obviously, you want to have, you know, number one, you need to have the political support for the project. Political champion is always ideal. You want to have a good site. You want to be, you know, it's got to be, you know, having the collection efficiency, certainly. You know, all the things I talked about, the utilities and so on. And I guess, yeah, I mean, those are certainly the most most important things that come to my mind. I mean, obviously, you need the sort of the local, you know, if you're in a two-tier municipality such as Peel, I mean, it's important to have, of course, the support of the lower tier municipalities as well, and keep them engaged, as well as any other sort of external approval agencies. I mean, for us, I mean, that includes the GTAA, the Greater Toronto Airport Authority, as well, because they're more concerned now with anything that could potentially pose a hazard to their operations. So in that situation, you know, you want to keep them kind of, which we've been doing. We've kind of kept them on board as well with the project, and even been doing bird surveys, believe it or not, of the site and of similar facilities to help that kind of process along. So in my mind, I mean, those are the things that make for a successful project. I mean, as I mentioned in my presentation, I mean, you're not similar to I'm going to make an analogy here to energy from waste. I mean, it's not something you do just to produce the RNG for that business case, but really, you know, we're trying to deal, number one, with the waste problem. And certainly it's a great way to deal with it, because you are not only, you know, responsibly dealing with organics, not going to landfill, producing methane, which of course we know is a big, you know, huge greenhouse gas contributor, climate change contributor, but you're producing renewable fuel, you're making a fertilizer, and by doing that, you're also, you know, you're going the other way. You're actually as I mentioned, huge reduction in GHGs if you choose to use it in-house, right? So really could help municipal corporation to reach its targets if they have them. So.
Okay, thanks. I can't think of a better place to stop the webinar than that, Tom. Great, and thanks for everybody. I know there's a few other questions that we've left hanging, but 2:45, we got to stop here. Thank you, everybody, for your time. We will post recording. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email or send it through Quest, and I will respond. And again, if those of you who you know, haven't been participating in Renewable Natural Gas Information Network, RNG Inet, you should definitely join. You can send me a note. I'll make sure you get connected. We have conversations just as rich as this every quarter, so you can stay updated. We'd love to have you participate. Thank you very much, Tom, Shelly, Kevin, and Jennifer, who had to already jump off. Really, really appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you very, very much, and good luck with all your projects.
Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you, other panelists. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Richard, for organizing this. Hope everyone has a great day.